Welcome to Education Today. My name is Chuck Garrett and I'll be your host. Today's guest is Coach Josh Dowdy, the athletic director and head baseball coach at Pontotoc High School. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you, Dr. Garrett.
Glad for you to be here. We appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy, so we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to be here and visit with us just a little bit.
Okay.
School's kind of winding down, and I guess you got last day's probably Thursday with teachers on Friday.
That's correct.
How's that kind of play in the athletic department? What do you have going? Getting ready.
We're definitely winding down for this school year and this athletic season, but it doesn't stop there. You know, we're already getting ready to get eligibility packets. We're getting those coming into the office for the 2019-2020 school year. Physicals, we did physicals last week, North Mississippi Medical Center. Got tons of those getting ready to put in on the computer as well. So yeah, the students are winding down, they're getting ready for summer, but it starts right back up for us for the athletic program to get started for next year.
And the fall seasons will be here very quickly, won't they?
Fall seasons will be here very quickly. Football, volleyball, cross country, those things get started in July. They start practicing in July, getting ready for August.
And I know a lot of things are going on in the summer. I mean, with cheer, band.
Oh, definitely. All our sports compete in the summer. Lifting weights, competing in little summer programs, cheer and dance as well. Everybody stays busy in the summer, just, you know, little time off with families and vacations and things like that.
I know you had a real good year in athletics this year. Can you hit a couple of highlights for the seasons?
Our athletic programs are, you know, one of the tops in the state, and, you know, some of the highlights this year, you know, all our athletic programs, our coaches do a phenomenal job. You know, football, making it a long way in the playoffs, cross country, you know, right there every year in Pearl, Mississippi College. Volleyball programs is growing. It's growing all over the state, but it's also growing at Pontotoc High School.
Okay, very good. Appreciate it. The name Dowdy, when I first came to Pontotoc, I saw that name on a street sign, and I got the feeling that maybe your family's been there for a while. Can you give us a little history?
The Dowdy name is in Pontotoc. A lot of relatives, for instance, Dowdy Street, named in Pontotoc, is named after a relative, Fred Dowdy, that used to be the mayor of the city of Pontotoc for quite some time, which our elementary is located on Dowdy Street.
Okay. Now, I understand you went to school in Pontotoc?
I did. Went to school, Pontotoc High School. I'm a graduate of Pontotoc High School, 1998 graduate. I was blessed to be able to play athletics at the school as well. My dad was the high school principal. So, you know, the business of education's been in my blood for quite some time.
Any highlights from your time in high school?
Didn't have cell phones back then, so probably not any highlights, but I was a baseball player, of course, competed in basketball, and we had a lot of success in baseball as well.
Okay. I know the Pontotoc School District's had a lot of success this year. The district is rated an A. The athletic program has been named the best in 4A now for several years in a row. Could you kind of talk about those two things a little bit?
Well, it goes hand in hand. Our students, they go from the playing field to the classroom. They feel like they're competing against other schools in the classroom. And that's instilled from our coaches and our teachers. You know, when our kids leave the classroom, they go to the playing field and they're competing against other schools as well. They want to be the best. They want to be the top dog. And we have a good working relationship with coaches and teachers. We push our student athletes, and they respond very well. They do what we ask them to do. When we tell them, you know, you got state tests coming up, they want to be number one. And anytime you start having student athletes being number one in the classroom and on the playing field, you get that A district, and you get that all sports award for 5 years in a row, like we have gotten the last 5.
5 straight?
5 straight.
That's pretty impressive. I know when I was superintendent, we managed that one time. And of course, we also did well at state that year in band and some other things, and we were thrilled to pull that off 5 times in a row. What's your secret?
Student athletes. We've got some of the best student athletes in the business. You know, as a coach, you want to push them, but you got to put the responsibility back on the student athlete, and they go out there and they practice hard every day. They want to be the best, and there for a while as a team, you want to win state championships, you want to win the division championships. But now we've got instilled in the back of our student athletes' mind is that all sports award. It's not an easy thing to accomplish. It takes everybody on the same playing team, all coaches working together, sharing student athletes. That's a big thing at Pontotoc High School. We want to share our athletes. We don't want to have our students to have to pick one sport or another to play.
Right.
We want them to play everything and compete in everything and represent our school and our community.
Well, you're to be congratulated. That's a tremendous honor, 5 years in a row.
Thank you.
Now, I know you serve as both athletic director and head baseball coach. Can you give us a little background that you have in athletics, experience, maybe college and all this kind of stuff, prior to your current position?
Sure. Like I said, competed at Pontotoc High School in baseball. I had the opportunity to play 2 years of college baseball at Northeast Community College, and I knew then that I wanted to get in education, and I wanted to coach and be a part of the game for quite some time. And I graduated from Ole Miss with a secondary education degree, and I got the opportunity to get a job at Pontotoc right out of college. And I got to work under Phil Webb, very successful baseball coach at Pontotoc. Taught me a lot of things.
He's the middle school, junior high principal.
He's the junior high principal there now. I was there for 4 years, and a little bird flew by and told me to get out of education for a little while. And I kind of got my toes, a little wet in the other fields besides education. And I was out of education for 5 years. A lot of people don't know that. And decided that's not what God wanted me to do, and he definitely wanted me to be in education, and I had an opportunity. I was just looking for a job at the time, and Coach Mark Grubbs at Bruce High School at the time was the principal, and he knew I was wanting to get back in education. He actually hired me to be an assistant baseball coach the first part of June that year, and as time went on, at the end of June, the head baseball coach resigned, and so of course, Coach Grubbs, he gave me the opportunity to be the head baseball coach at Bruce High School, and this was going into the school year 2012, and that was my first head coaching experience with the Bruce Trojans, and we had a very successful team, successful seniors, senior-driven team. Went down to Jackson, won a state championship that same year, my very first year.
As first year head coach?
First year as a head coach, won a state championship.
Okay.
So I knew then that I was in the right profession. I knew what I was supposed to be doing. And I stayed at Bruce High School for 4 years. We were pretty successful. I had the opportunity to go to the Kossuth High School where they had a successful baseball program. They hired me there to work as a head baseball coach there. My first year at Kossuth, we won a state championship as well in 2016, and great community, great school up there at Kossuth. And I always told my wife and my family, I would never leave Kossuth unless one school came calling, and that was Pontotoc, to come back home. And so after the season in 2017, Pontotoc reached out to me and asked me to be the head baseball coach. And so I just finished my second year there, and I feel like that we've had 2 successful seasons in Pontotoc in baseball. Looking to do a lot more. We're trying to get Pontotoc baseball back on the map, and I think our guys are buying into what we're doing, and they're working toward that goal.
Well, congratulations! You got to the North half.
We got to the North half finals this year. We were playing for the North State Championship. Very close getting a trip to Trustmark Park to play for the state championship this year in our second year.
That's a great accomplishment already. You talk about, education being for you. I know athletic directors work long days and long nights. I wish you'd give people just an idea of some of that, but also what are some of the rewards you feel from working in education, working with kids and this kind of thing?
Well, since I've gotten back in education, and especially this year taking the role as athletic director, I don't see one day as work. I go to school, I get to spend time with all the student athletes, trying to make their programs better, trying to make their coaches better. With the relationship with the coaches and players, we want the student athlete to have the best experience in high school that they can possibly have, and that's with athletics. And to be quite honest with you, a lot of our student athletes are at school for athletics.
Right.
And if we can keep them motivated in athletics, that keeps them motivated in the classroom as well. A typical day as an athletic director, you get up and you go to school, Lots of paperwork, of course, but also, just talking to coaches and being a part of their practices and just walking around and letting the student athletes know who you are and that you're there for them. I'm there for the student athlete first and foremost. This is their opportunity in athletics. But long hours, I'm either going to basketball games, football games, volleyball matches, cross-country events. It's a lot of hours. But if you are athletic minded like I am, I don't see it as work. I'm not going somewhere. I'm not having to go to these places. I love going to games and watching our student athletes perform because they perform at a high level.
Would I be wrong if I said probably Monday through Friday, it's pretty easy for it to be a 7 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night or even later?
Oh, most definitely. You're looking at 15-hour days. And sometimes my wife lets me know about it. Getting home late, but she's very supportive. My kids are supportive at home. They enjoy, loading up in the truck with Dad and going to football games and basketball games. It's just a family. Our athletic department is family oriented, so it's just one big family.
Now, one of the things I was impressed by this year were you have good crowds. How do you talk a little bit about the crowds that you have, the support you have, and the budget that you work for, an athletic budget?
Our crowds are like no other. If you go to the hollow, which we call our football and baseball field, because it is down in a hollow, it's special on Friday night. A lot of people come out and support the football team, support our state championship band that we have. We have an awesome band as well. A lot of support from those two. But anytime you go to our athletic event, we have a lot of fans there because our community support is like no other. In order to have a #1 athletic program and an A-rated school district, it comes from community support. You have to have the community support for that. Our community, they step up to the plate anytime that we need something in athletics or in academics. Like as an athletic budget, I know that we've grown just from the first year, from the year before I was athletic director to the next year, we grew our athletic budget by $20,000. We're sitting at a $148,000 athletic budget this past year. It looks to going to increase it hopefully for the next season. And that starts from our community, our administrators at school, our teachers, and most importantly, our student athletes. If they're not successful, we're not getting that support.
Would I be right in saying that your athletic budget is based almost entirely on gate receipts?
It is. We look at gate receipts. That is the #1 money maker for us. If community support stops, our athletic budget stops. So as long as we have the community to keep supporting us, our budget's going to keep increasing.
Okay. Well, I know that's been a really good year. Let's kind of walk through the seasons a little bit and let you hit a few highlights of for some of the different sports, just kind of as you see fit. But as we start with the fall, we had football, cross country, volleyball, swimming. Kind of, how did the fall seasons go?
Well, swimming was our first year. Swimming this past season was the first year that we implemented that program. We were just hoping to have some participation, get some interest from some people. We had almost 160 participants to sign up for swim. I believe Coach Mims only kept about 7 or 8 this year because it was the first year. And anytime you go into the athletic season on the first year, you're not real sure on how it's going to happen.
Right.
But we were fortunate enough; they competed very well. They all qualified for state swim meet. We had a state champion individual swimmer, Rainey Greer. She set state records this year as a sophomore in swim. So that's why we do what we do, is to give our student athletes another avenue to excel. And here we have a swimmer in school that's never been on a swim team at the high school because we didn't have one. We implemented one. She swam and won a state championship and set state records.
Where and when did the swimming team practice?
That's funny. We don't have a pool.
That's what I was kind of thinking that was true.
The Pontotoc Country Club was very generous for us to let our swim coach and the swim members to come out to the country club, work on basic fundamentals of swimming. When they really wanted to see how they were and how practice was going, we did rent out the aquatic center in Tupelo and took them over there a couple days a week. But that sport's growing as well. You have a lot of bigger schools in the state that's been doing it quite some time, but we just wanted to give our student athletes another avenue to be able to excel in.
Well, and you mentioned athletics. A lot of students come there to be athletes. We've been through all this dropout rate talk and all this kind of thing, and Pontotoc's always had a very low dropout rate. But I've tried to tell people the best dropout prevention program we have are all of the athletics and athletics. I mean, if students are involved,
right,
they're there, and they want to stay eligible, and so that at least puts a minimum of effort that they have to put into what they're trying to accomplish academically.
Right.
I mean, do you see,
That's one of the big things. Our student athletes, like I said earlier, a lot of them come to school to participate in athletics, and then they know when they're at school participating in athletics, they still have to excel in the classroom as well to be able to participate in those athletic programs.
Well, and somebody's expecting an A.
That's exactly right.
So there you go.
That's exactly right.
Well, anything about football or cross country or volleyball you want to
football had a tremendous year again as well. Coach Carter and his staff do a phenomenal job. They made it to the third round of the playoffs. They got beat by Louisville, which eventually won the state championship. They were by far the best team in the state. But the third round of the playoffs for football is a big accomplishment as well. Coach Bain does, he's one of the Mississippi legends of cross country coach, winning numerous and numerous state championships. He took a girls team down to Mississippi College in the state cross country meet this year. Most of them are junior high girls, and I believe they finished 4th or 5th in the state championships with junior high girls. So his future is really bright there. Also, the boys cross country state championships, took his guys down there. They finished state runner up. They were really close to a good Corinth team, finished runner up. Our volleyball team is one of the fastest growing sports in the state of Mississippi. Junior colleges are starting to pick up volleyball to give these girls an opportunity to play beyond high school. Our volleyball team is growing. They're becoming more successful every year. The realignment of divisions this next year is going to help our volleyball team, because there for a while in the state, not many teams competed in volleyball. And we found ourselves in a division with bigger schools that have been doing volleyball for quite some time. But now with the realignment of divisions, we've gotten in a division that we think we can compete well in, and I see big things coming from our volleyball programs next year.
All right, well, very good. Then we kind of move into the winter sports of basketball and soccer, bowling, archery, powerlifting.
Powerlifting starts
Talk
as well.
a little bit about some of those.
Well, powerlifting, we tell everybody we kind of feel like we have a dynasty in boys powerlifting. Even though we didn't win a state championship this year in powerlifting, I think they have won the last 5 in a row. Boys state championship powerlifting. Coach Warren does a phenomenal job. Coach Matt with the girls does a phenomenal job. Our powerlifting teams are always going to be one of the top in the state each and every year. So they've done a great job. Coach Hurd, girls basketball, had a phenomenal year. He was one of the top teams in the state and had a phenomenal year. They had one bad game in the playoffs, got put out. That's going to make those girls more hungry for next year. He's got every returner back. He didn't graduate anyone, so we're expecting big things from Coach Hurd and girls basketball program. We hired a new basketball coach this past year. Coach Tipler came from Ashland. He's won a couple state championships at Ashland. We got him to join the Warrior family, and what a phenomenal job he has done to turn that program around. I believe they had 3 losses on the year. They made it to the third round. They were 1 win away from going to Big House in Jackson, and that doesn't happen very much with Pontotoc basketball. So he's done a phenomenal job. Archery is a fast-growing sport that's taking place in Mississippi. Our archery program, we've had a lot of participants this year. We're looking for big things, and Coach Walker's done a phenomenal job with our archery program.
Okay. And soccer.
Soccer. I'm going to tell you what, Coach Moore and his boys soccer team was 1 win away from a state championship this year. He made it to the North Half Finals. He's got some guys coming back, expect big things. He was ranked number 1 in 4A in soccer most of the year with his boys program.
All right.
Coach Jensen and the girls, he had a very young team, starting a lot of young girls. They started showing tremendous success toward the end of the year, so we're expecting big things from their programs as well.
That sounds great. It sounds like one of the ways you're winning the 4A title overall is you have a lot of programs, a diversified group of programs, and they all do pretty well.
They do. That's our goal, is for our programs to compete. I think we have 17 different programs. Every program qualified for state playoffs except 2. And if we tell the coaches each year going into coaches meetings, hey, let's just get to the playoffs and see what happens, because anytime you get in the playoffs, anything can happen.
Got a chance.
And once these programs start getting in the playoffs, that's starting to get you those points that you need for the All Sports Award.
Okay. And we get to the spring, which I know is particularly special to you being the head baseball
That's right.
coach. But we got baseball, softball, track, golf, tennis. Did I forget anything?
I believe that's it. Our tennis program competed for the North Half Championship this year, and so they made it a long ways. Coach Morrow's been there for a long time, has done a great job with the tennis program. Track, Coach Morgan, Coach Bain, Coach Hatcher, they all do a phenomenal job with their track program. Our track, our boys won the North Half Championship this year in track. Our girls were right there second. They both went down to Pearl, competed for a state championship. Our boys finished second. They were state runner-up. They lost their fastest guy before going down, so that may have put a damper on the state championship.
That would be tough to lose your fastest man.
But track did a phenomenal job. They're right there competing for a state championship every year. That's all we can ask for. Our softball program, they had a good year. They lost a key player from last year's team, but they battled all year long. They probably didn't have the season that they wanted to have, but guess what? They got in the playoffs, and they got to the third round.
There you go.
So, good things happen when you get in the playoffs. You never know. I always tell my team it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Baseball is definitely special to me because I get to
Yeah.
I get to be with those guys each and every day. We still had a pretty young team. We had 4 seniors, but we're still, pretty young playing in the playoffs. And last year my goal was to get in the playoffs and win a few games, and they did that. This year my goal was to get in the playoffs and see how far we could get. They got to the North Half Championship, and they got a little taste of it. They see what it's going to take to get to a state championship, and I feel like big things are going to come from our baseball program next year.
All right, a little tennis, golf.
And then golf.
We already hit on tennis.
We already hit on tennis. Golf did the same thing. Girls golf is very young. I think 2 8th-grade girls participated in girls golf. Our boys had a really good year. Coach Sparks does a great job with our golf. A.J. Martin, student athlete golf, is signed to play golf at ICC, so he was a phenomenal player in golf for us this year.
Okay. Well, that's pretty much what happened in 2018-19. How does it look for next year?
Same thing. Our expectations are the same. Our coaches know that. Our student athletes know. We want to excel on the playing field, in the classroom. All our teams, our goal is to get in the playoffs. See how far you can get, because I'm going to tell you, as a coach, when student athletes start winning and excelling on the playing field, they take it to the classroom as well, and then that's how you get the A district and the All Sports Award.
All right, and I know you're doing some upgraded facilities, and you have any initiatives or things you have going on that you hope to have accomplished before the season?
Well, right now we're focused on our high school basketball gym. When you start winning a lot of games like they start selling more tickets, and we need more seats. The bleachers that we've had in the gym have been there since the original construction of the gym in 1988, and it's just they're getting old and worn out. So we just recently took out the old bleachers. They just finished that up yesterday. Once that is completely cleaned up, we have a crew coming in. We're sanding down our floor to the bare wood. We've got a company coming in. They're going to do an all-new paint scheme for basketball and volleyball as well. Then after that is completed, sometime in July, another company will come in and install all brand new bleachers with handrails, handicap accessible areas, things that we need, for more people to come and support our basketball programs. So that's the biggest project at this time right now, is the basketball bleachers in our basketball gym. We're also looking at doing all new bleachers at the baseball field. That's something that needs to be done. The bleachers that we have down there right now have been there since the mid-1980s. So we're in the process of that. Also in the process at the football stadium, if you've ever been to our football stadium, our concrete stands stop somewhere on the 30-yard line, on the east side, on the 30-yard line. We're looking at putting terraces in that hill, and if you've ever been there, you know the hill on the home side, looking at putting terraces there so people can actually bring lawn chairs to the game and set those up on those terraces and watch a football game. So those are the three biggest construction phases for the athletic program that we're under right now.
Okay, very good. Anything you'd like to say? We're about out of time. Anything you'd kind of like to say to the fans in Pontotoc about any part of what you're doing with athletics?
Well, first and foremost, as the athletic director of Pontotoc City Schools, I want to thank our community for all the support they give us. We have businesses, we have individuals on a daily basis supporting Pontotoc Warrior Athletics. Our student athletes appreciate it, our teachers appreciate it at school, our administrators for the district appreciate it. No school would ever function without the community. It just wouldn't. And we have one of the most tremendous community supports that I've ever been a part of in all the school districts that I've ever worked for.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you being with us today. And for Coach Josh Dowdy and Hill Country Network, this is Chuck Garrett saying we'll see you next time.